Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to our series Colorado 2025 All-Electric Travel Extravaganza. Today we are focusing in this episode on Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park and surrounding areas. We're going to do hikes, drives, see waterfalls, go to hot springs, all kinds of fun things, and we'll show you all how to do that. So come along with us.
Welcome back to E-Hermes, your electric adventure travel channel. Please remember to subscribe, hit the like button, and hit that bell button to be notified of our upcoming content.
Black Canyon of the Gunnison has two rims, the South Rim and the North Rim. The South Rim is where we camped and began our tour along the South Rim Road, where we first stopped at Tomichi Point. Then we are on to the South Rim Visitor Center that has interesting exhibits and sits right on the edge of the canyon. A trail to the edge of the canyon begins right behind the visitor center. There you can peer down into the bottom of the canyon where the river still cuts its way through. We then got back into the van and drove the short distance to the Pulpit Rock overlook. There was a dry thunderstorm last night, and we are starting to see some little spot fires on the North Rim. Fortunately, we knew that this could not possibly cross over to the South Rim. And now we are starting to see some signs of fire just beyond the South Rim Drive. After smoke, we see impressively large flames, maybe a half mile from the Rim Drive. Well, this seems to be escalating quickly as we are now seeing firefighting aircraft in the area as we continue to make our way along the South Rim Drive. At our next stop, park rangers came up to us and told us to turn around and evacuate the park due to the fire danger. Our son decided we should make a quick stop back at the campground to check the conditions there and see if there's any risk to our campers and my Ford F-150 Lightning.
We interrupt this sightseeing video as we have been asked to evacuate the campground due to the wildfire you see behind us. So we're going to be packing up, getting out of here till things are safe. Then we'll come back and finish the tour maybe tomorrow or the next day.
Except there would be no coming back the next day or any time in the future of our trip. A few hours after we left, the fire tore through the campground, burning or melting a few campers who were left, as well as some of the restrooms and other improvements. I would doubt that the campground reopens at all in 2025. However, due to tremendous efforts of the wildland firefighters, the South Rim Visitor Center was saved. I have to say it was somewhat surreal driving out of the campground, seeing the smoke getting bigger and closer, and fire crews racing up into the park to fight the fires. Fortunately, we were able to get new camping spots at the KOA in Montrose, Colorado.
The wildfires are definitely bad business, but they do make for gorgeous sunsets. Despite our displacement from the fire, we did eventually make it down to Ouray. Probably my favorite small town in the country. It's got one of those cute little main streets, all kinds of little shops, a brewery, can't go wrong with that, and just gorgeous views all around. First we're going to stop for some lunch with the kids, and then we're going on a short hike to some waterfalls.
We drove the short distance to the south end of town and Box Canyon. Here, in this little park, there are trails to waterfalls, a tunnel, and a high bridge. Since we had the small children, we drove to the park, but the park is also accessible via the Perimeter Trail, which encircles Ouray and has several connecting paths from the town. From the parking lot, a short trail takes you to a graded walkway that takes you to the top of the falls. The walkway is open, but it feels very safe. For the slightly more adventurous, there is also a graded metal stairway that leads from the walkways to the base of the falls with some outstanding views. The mist from the falls is very refreshing on a hot day. It is a somewhat daunting trail to get up to this elevated bridge, but as you can see, the views from the top are spectacular. This also leads to the old utility tunnel that you can walk through. You can continue on from here to the Perimeter Trail discussed above, but we hiked back down to the parking lot. Clearly, a good time was had by all. In the chaos and confusion of our forced relocation, we did not have an opportunity to get to the Ouray hot springs, which we would have liked to have seen.
After being displaced from the South Rim campground at Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park due to the wildfires, we sought refuge for 2 nights at the KOA in Montrose, Colorado. However, they have no space for us tonight, So we are heading on towards Rocky Mountain National Park. We're going to have one stop tonight at a harvest host, and then we have a county park tomorrow night, and then we'll be at Rocky Mountain National Park. Hopefully there's no fires there. Due to a forest fire at Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park, our son's family and us had to move on. We were evicted from the campground. It's a good thing because it burned to the ground a couple hours after we left. Unfortunately, that left us nowhere to stay. We're staying at a very nice harvest host, Stone Yard Distillery, but there's no power, so I'm running both travel trailers off the Pro Power on board. Running his big one off the 30 amp 240 volt with the proper adapter, and then we're running ours off the 20 amp 120 volt. These two are actually on different circuits. This one and this one back here are on the same circuit, so I had to switch those because it tripped when I was running them on the same circuit, but the truck seems to have plenty of power to run them both. In fact, let's take a look. He's drawing 1490. I'm not drawing anything. I must not have anything on. So we'll go fix that and see how it does run in both vehicles. So we are the top outlet, 2800 watts out of 3600. He's the bottom one, 1530. Not sure his air conditioner is on yet. We'll see what happens when he fires that up. But this should be enough since there's two circuits to run both campers. Had there only been one circuit, 3600 watts would not be sufficient. So the two circuits in the bed are running the two trailers. For the exterior cooking on the hot plate and electric Weber, we're using the circuit for the frunk, but I'm using it out of the passenger compartment so you don't have that thing where the front lid is closed and it won't run. So we're able to run both trailers and some other accessories off the Lightning. We've used 2% so far. Besides running the climate control, all the cooking, hot water heater for 4 showers, we are also using the Lightning to light up the camp area as it is pretty dark around here. But of course, running all that equipment comes at a cost. We started with 68% state of charge when we arrived last afternoon. We're now down to 45% after breakfast this morning. We used 23%, that's about a quarter of the battery, about 35 kilowatt hours of power to power the two campers, all the cooking, the hot water heating, and the pump for the water. Still, I don't know how we would have survived in this heat without it, so we're certainly glad we had it.
We have decided we should move on closer to our next stop, Rocky Mountain National Park. Additionally, since we had no utilities either at Stone Yard Distillery, nor would we at our campground just outside ESTES Park, we decided to find a campground close to Rocky Mountain with at least power and water to fill up our batteries and water tanks. Of course, we did have 2 charging stops today since we ran the battery down to close to 40%, powering both campers last night and then driving Interstate 70 from the western slope up to the Eisenhower Tunnel, then down towards Golden and up to Loveland, where we could find a campsite that met all of our needs. At our first charging stop, we took the 4th and final charger. It had 2 other vehicles towing and charging. Anyway, on to Golden, then Loveland.
So after being displaced from Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Park South Rim Campground due to the wildfire, we spent the first 2 nights that we were evicted in the KOA Montrose. We spent last night at Stone Yard Distillery, a harvest host site. Tonight we are at Flatiron Campground It's a county park, Laramie County, I believe it is. And we'll be spending tonight here before we go on to then we'll get back on schedule tomorrow, and that'll be another episode. I have to say there is some sad news to report. I mean, fortunately, first of all, no loss of life that I know of. But there was a camper across from us that I got a call from the National Park Service today asking me if we had picked up both of our campers and we were good and all that. And I said yes. And I said there was this single woman across the way. She left a little before we did. I didn't see her back there when we were packing up. And they said, no, unfortunately, her camper is a total loss. So very unfortunate, very sad. Our minor inconvenience of having to come up with new campgrounds pales in comparison. So our hearts really go out to her. So we'll have one more very short drive tomorrow. We're almost to Estes Park, Hermit's Hollow Campground. It's the same county, so it'll probably be a 15-minute drive. When we get there, we'll wrap up this episode and then get started on the Rocky Mountain National Park episode. It may be a short drive from Flatiron Campground at Flatiron Reservoir up to Hermit's Hollow Campground in the Hermit Hollow open space, but it is certainly a scenic one up Big Thompson Canyon. We're going to leave the video on to see the full drive up the canyon till we get to the turnoff, and that'll wrap up this episode 3, of our trip. A little bit unfortunate with the experiences we had at Black Canyon of the Gunnison, but nevertheless, we hope you enjoyed the look we did give you at Black Canyon of the Gunnison. Found the wildfire at least interesting, although tragic. If you did, please hit the like button. Of course, we hope you're subscribed. And please hit that bell button to be notified when our next episode in this series is uploaded. Thank you!